Hey there, Deep Thinkers. Welcome back to our next episode of the Deep Thynkers Society. We have Colleen Lindberg here with us today. How you doing?
I am good. I'm excited.
I'm super excited because we're going to talk about some of my favorite topics today. Um, I would love it if you share a little bit about yourself to the audience and your background and what you do, and just tell us about you.
Yeah, how much time do we have?
We have
I know,
plenty
I'm
of
just
time.
joking.
That's-
Well, in one lifetime I was, I'm like, but Soul Mission Activator was a title that was given to me a few years back with what I actually am meant to do on this earth experience and to really help people activate in their mission and trust and step behind that with their power and truth. And I'm a spiritual guide. I do a lot of activation work with spiritual gifts, and one of the assets that I work within is in the Akashic Records. I train in it, I clear in it, I teach people about it, and I really love the juiciness of the information we can gather in the records. So
I
that's
love your
the
passion. Like you got
yeah,
so much passion behind it. I love it.
that's the Coles and Oates version.
And so say that title again, Mission
Soul Mission Activator.
Soul Mission Activator.
Hmm.
I'm visualizing like what that looks like. That's really cool.
Well, like,
And
what's so funny is like before I actually brought spirituality into my business, like maybe like 7, 8 years ago, I've been working with a spiritual mentor for 15 years. So I've been in the pathway of expanding and understanding and talking to my guides and doing all the things, right? And clearing work and all that. But it was probably like 7 or 8 years ago, I just was writing this quote on documents all the time. If I can help light your light, then you can go out and help the lights of others. But until you're lit, you can't light anyone. And that was like a channel. And I didn't understand it at the time. Like I thought it was just like a cool thing. But
right,
if you
right.
want a visual on what a soul mission activator is, it's like I'm here to just go, how do I get you activated? How do I get you activated? And moving all of that energy through. So yeah,
That's so awesome. What sun sign are you?
I'm a Gemini
Are you really?
and a
Oh,
Gemini
no wonder
moon.
you're. Oh, really? Wow,
Uh-huh.
a double Gemini. What's your
I
rising
know.
sign?
I have no idea. Oh my gosh. I should have been prepared for
Yeah,
this. I
no,
always
that's
forget.
okay.
People ask me that and I'm like, I don't remember. I think a Scorpio maybe.
That's possible.
Yeah.
Transformation.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
possible. Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
rising as well. Wow, that's super awesome. It's good to know. So you know it. Like Geminis, they know their stuff and they're
Hmm.
good like communicators. So I'm excited to hear more. So delving into what you do would entail taking your clients to the Akashic Records, or do you go into the Akashic Records?
Yeah. So I do all different kinds of cool work. So a couple things how it shows up. I people hire me or pay for sessions for me to dive into their records, get information for them, do clearings in the records for them, and then we move through an experience, let's just say together. So I like they can ask whatever questions they want. I dive in, get info, kind of like psychic session, but we're right in their records. I train in them, so I teach people how to actually do that kind of work in the space. But then my past life, ancestral healing, clearing energetic work is all through the records. So what happens in those sessions is we dive in, let's just say like I'm not enough is like the cycle that someone's been playing out. And most likely it's not in this lifetime, especially with all the stuff we've been transitioning through. It's coming from past lives, which we know are just other dimensional lives, right? They're all happening at once. So we drop into a meditative state and we go back to where this root was initiated. We go back into that life, into that body, dive back in, and we use the records as like a pulse point to be able to go and find the info. And then we heal it, change the timeline in that life, clear all the energies, and then whatever other work we have to do in there, we do the work. So I all
Mm.
three, like all different ways, I use them.
I'm gonna have to make some time to meet with you because that sounds super exciting. I'd love to do that.
It is the coolest thing, and people come back, they're like, what just happened? Like they're like I'm like, isn't it fun? My life is so fun. It's like an arcade game. Every day I drop
No,
into my
that's
next
awesome.
adventure. Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah, I've worked with hypnosis and quantum
Mm.
hypnosis before, and they're both passions of mine. And I considered bringing them into my practice but I don't feel like it's my calling. But what I love about it is how deep it takes you and how limitless you are when once you get like deep like that to the point where you could travel, your consciousness can travel, and you're limitless, like literally you
Mm,
could go
yeah.
anywhere, including like you do, the Akashic Records. And but I've learned so much from like Dolores Cannon for, you know, like the breakthrough piece of it all, where she shifted my understanding of reality. And
Mm,
I think that as humans, we don't really realize that we are as limitless as we are. And so with your work, I can
yeah.
only imagine all the stories and
Oh
like,
man.
yeah.
One of my clients, there was a challenge, like she had victimhood playing out in her ancestral line that was playing out as like a system in her field. And we went back to the moment of whoever in her ancestral line locked in victimhood. And it was at the start of when the Illuminati was started, and her family back then
Like
was
how back then? That like when would that
like
have started? I've always
it was
wondered that.
it's hundreds and hundreds of years. So like we didn't get the timeline because it wasn't necessary for us to get the year. We were going in to clear the energy. But I was like, she, because whoever it was, like who knows, great, 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 whatever, grandmother or whatever it was, I was like, she just started the Illuminati, didn't she? She's like, yeah, and she was like, and I'm like, it's okay. It's just part of the whole thing. We all have lives that we've done stuff in, so it doesn't matter. But I'm like,
Wow.
this is cool. Like just the
So
work.
was the early intent what it developed into? Was it a negative intent back then as well as it what it's developed into, or did it develop into a negative intent?
It developed into it when like greed and control and all the power hungry energy came through. Their intention and her intention was to spread truth. And we changed the timeline where she literally submitted to these people that didn't want her saying it. So we pulled her out of the situation, brought her to where the secret society was about to start. And they decided as a group, that collective of humans, to begin the secret society to get that truth still into the world without expressing it in the way that would get them killed. And so if you think about the mystic schools and all the stuff that we know to be true from past history, that's kind of what's maneuvered through in that space. So yeah, it's cool, right?
Wow, that would have been so cool
It's
to
like
listen in.
the stuff I've come across. One of my clients is actually Mary Magdalene incarnated. So that was the coolest thing. And when we went back to activate her gifts in her temple, one of the coolest works I've ever had to do. Like, I'm just like, the stuff I get to be a part of is just blows my mind. Yeah.
When I think of guided meditation to take yourself, you know, to the Akashic records. Well, actually, before I get into that, why don't you explain to people like what is that place that you take people to, which
Yeah.
is called the Akashic Records, and how is it reached?
Yeah, so depending on how I'm doing the work, if I'm doing a session and I'm leading, we have invocations and permission portal ways that I have to get through in order to get into their Akashic records. They have to give permission and all that kind of stuff. And I've got protocols, let's say, in place for that kind of work. But if we were doing a session here today, I would drop you into it. Now, some people can access their records like this, like they don't even think that that's their records. They drop into that space, they can go. So right away, when we set the intention and we bring it up, they're already moving to where we need to go. And it's like they just cross and go. But there's some people that need a little bit more time. So we drop into a meditative state, we do deep breathing, we get into the body. And then the Akashic Records is actually held through our heart centers in our sacred heart temple. So where our intuition lies, everything is in the heart, which makes sense. It's a beating part of the body, right? So it all is here. So we literally drop into a visualization to get into the heart. Usually it's through a light beam or a rose or a flower, and we enter then into what we call the sacred heart temple in the passageway. And there's all these doors that show up in the space, and then we go to the Akashic door and open the door, and now we're in the records. And then
So the Akashic Records are like a library of
like a lot,
records.
like some people see it like libraries, some people see it as different like temples of secrecy. Like it, everybody has their unique vibrational experience that they get to move through. And if someone tells us differently that it has to be a certain way, they've forgotten that every single human has a unique frequency and palette, let's say, in this vibrational coding. So it shows up differently for all. And then what usually happens is like the intention or life we're going to will open up like a portal and it'd be like, come on in. And we enter. Yeah.
That's so interesting. Yeah. So something I learned very early on, once I was attuned to Reiki, and I've always been studying astrology, so I was 14 years old. But when I got attuned to Reiki, I really naturally, and not even on a conscious level, started tapping into gifts.
Mm.
And whenever I would meet somebody, or even like hold their hands, and back then I was young, to read their palm or whatnot, but whenever I would meet somebody, if I felt like a calling toward them, I could always tell where I knew them from, like what era I knew them from, like what scenario I knew them from, because I had done a lot of like hypnosis work, I had done a lot of past life work, and I had gotten really in touch with myself. So as I'm meeting more unique people along the way, it definitely challenges my skill level, but I still feel very in tune with. Well, you said some people can naturally do it. It's easier when you have a session with them. And I was thinking, well, I could imagine having a session with you, and it probably wouldn't be too hard to pull anything out.
Oh, and like the people coming into my field now, literally they close their eyes and they're already getting there. And I'm like, these are the people that I love to work with. Cause like, I'm like, we just save 15 minutes, like, and I'm just like, but it's because the veils are so thin and literally we are being called to heal these energies in these other lives, dimensional lives that we've played within. And like spirit desires that, so it's like, it's not hard for us. And if someone takes you through a protocol that is making it harder than it is, they're using old systems. And that's really the truth. Is like we don't need to do it that, like, literally we can shift stuff in real time. So
So if I wanted to, through my own practice, my own meditation practice, like my own
yeah.
quiet time, take myself into a deeper state or a relaxed state, or just like I was explaining to you offline, how at times I already know I'm there and I'm not really there,
Mhm.
like deep, but I'm there. If I did that, would I want to maybe guide myself to my heart center and take myself through that hallway, so to speak, like, and
Yeah.
visualize it and just kind of see where it goes?
Yeah. Or like, so yes, for sure. And absolutely. And if people need concrete ways and guidance, that's exactly the right way to do it. Where like I can, like, so a couple weeks ago, it's like, you need to do a breath work series and then drop into the life where worthiness is, like where you were feeling unworthy. And I was like, okay, no problem. So did the breath work, closed my eyes, dropped into my heart, and literally right away it was like, boom, I was right in the room in the middle of this like abusive scene, and I was like, pause, like literally I hit pause and I went, okay, let's back out of the body for a second, because you drop usually into the body unless you are observing or you have fear or whatever, then you may come third party. Pulled myself out of the body, pulled her out of the way, and then I understood why I was there, had the conversation. I said, look, we've got a few moments now. If you're ready to make a change in your life, we got to go. And so literally took her out of the scene, got out of the house, hit play. So whatever he was up to, she wasn't there anymore, and changed the whole
Wow.
thing. But like literally you could close your eyes with that intention and pop into wherever you need to go.
Gotcha. So basically, that's really actually trigger a lot of thoughts with that statement alone with me,
Mm-hmm.
and where I am at in my work with shamanism and consciousness. And because I do just go, I've been listening a lot, like I had mentioned offline to you, with Darius Wright, and he teaches
Mm-hmm.
his method of out of body experience, which he believes that when you go in his way, which is through a portal of like sleep paralysis, when you hit sleep paralysis, you know that you are like hitting it, and a lot of people get scared and they go back. But I already know that when I dream or sleep, and I leave this body, that I'm traveling into other realms. My consciousness is aware of other realms, and I'm thinking that what you're saying about how you could just drop in, and that's kind of what I'm doing. I want to learn how to do it more consciously, like more
Mm-hmm.
aware, not
Mm-hmm.
like always like when I fall asleep. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
So would that entail just like what you're saying is just like kind of just chill out and just go?
Just chill out and go. Yeah. If you're naturally the type of person that could get lost, meaning like you drop in and you're gone. Like I have a girlfriend of mine who astral travels 3 to 4 hours a day. And I'm like, dude, how are you even human still? I don't even understand, like, and this, I joke around about it, but she goes, boop, she just drops right out and then she goes and takes off. So at the beginning phases of this, it would be set the intention, maybe set your alarm on your phone to call you back,
Yeah,
So it's like,
yeah,
if you only have a half an hour and you're tight on time, like hold potency in that space. But set the, where do you want to go? I want to go play with the dragons on their planet. I want to go hang out on Sirius. I want to go to my soul planetary alignment. I want to go check out the records of Earth. Like we can access records of most of the things, like not other people or even certain deities or realms unless we get permission to go into there. But Earth, you can go into elements if you want and
yeah.
go visit the elements Akashic Records. Like if you're really into like gold, you could go into the gold's Akashic Records if you want and like go have a good time, like set an intention to go wherever you feel called to go, and then work in that. And it doesn't mean it's going to take work. It just means our human needs a couple of ticks and confirmation that
Yeah.
shows us, so that it's like, oh, then the spirit's like, it's okay, you're okay. Your soul's like, dude, we've done this so many times, like
So
yeah.
I'm imagining then, like once you get into that spot where it's comfortable,
Yeah.
anybody like can do this obviously, but once you I believe that unless you are a little more self-aware and a little more you know, have a way of like protecting yourself and knowing really what's going on, maybe you should have somebody like yourself, guide them through it. But, for those who meditate regularly and already, astral travel or whatnot,
Yeah.
I would think that um, it would help us start shifting the planet more towards positivity if we, like you said, put the intent. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of feeling like maybe that's where things have been going for me as I've been studying consciousness. Like you said, it's not as difficult as some people make it. You said that offline to me,
Mm-hmm.
and it brought me back to some books on consciousness that I'm reading that were written back in the 60s, and
Mm.
and
Yeah.
whatnot, off of certain theories like the eight the eight circuit theory, where basically it's the same as chakras, but they call them circuits.
Yep.
And it just sounded like it's so complicated. And then Darius Wright, I was listening to his theory about how you need to like literally almost die, like shut the body off um to get to that state out of your body, and your consciousness can change your reality. And all of those methods really feel challenging. They
Mm-hmm.
seem like it's too hard, and it doesn't make sense to me because I feel like we humans make everything harder than it has to be. And
Oh,
it's probably like much easier, more in alignment with what you're saying.
we've made like, when we think about density energy and what we used to work through just in this lifetime that we've been alive, it was warranted. If you can hear my dogs barking, I apologize. They're fighting in their crate downstairs. So like I didn't know they fought like this when I leave them in their crate together. Okay, now I know. So it was more like, almost in essence, it was a little bit more challenging for us because there was a lot more density between the timelines, let's say. Age of Aquarius happened, it was like it flipped and switched, that it was like now the veils are so thin, which maybe they always were, but we didn't see them that thin in the past. Who knows, right? Because
Yeah.
the level of
Yeah.
consciousness I was at when I understood this was different than who I am today. I'm just
Oh
kind of
yeah,
like,
completely. Yeah.
yeah, like totally different person. So if people haven't considered an upgrade in the energy, if they're still using old systems that they've learned and haven't, like, even some of the people that I know that have done Reiki and that come into my field, I go, you are not a Reiki practitioner. You are a quantum healer. Okay. Reiki was a baseline you used to open up your gifts. And now you've aligned all these other pieces and modalities. And it's the same with the Akashics. I had someone ask me once, they said, well, I've heard that there's some distortion running through the Akashics. And I said, look, everything has duality. So if you're running off an old system that hasn't been upgraded with the new energies, and you're not directly contacting the keepers of the records, and you're not directly channeling through that information through them, yeah, it's going to have distortion because the frequency is lower compared to where we actually can access.
Yeah, and
So
it goes back to literally everything you're saying goes back to the theory that everything, literally everything is your perspective.
yeah,
So if you don't like your perspective, change it. And if you change your perspective, then that's the way reality is. You know what I mean? It
huge.
just,
Yeah.
if you believe it, you feel it, and you live it, then that's,
Mhm.
then, and that is why there's no, and I try to explain to people, I'm not everybody can grasp the concept, but that's why I don't believe there's right or wrong,
Yeah,
because
there's
everything is right for you in that time, and eventually, all the souls will get to the exact same place but in their own way.
mhm.
And in order to have gotten there, you needed to go through what you needed to go through to get there.
Huge. Now, sometimes the shortcuts or the messengers drop in and, we choose not to see them or we whatever. And it was like, oh, she didn't take her ticket for that train. Okay.
Yeah.
And like, I've been down there. I was like the narrow winding road, like, give me the t-shirt where how hard it was for most of my life. So I get it now. I'm like, no, we're doing everything with grace and ease. It's like, when I channeled the certification that I now teach in the records, because I was taught under a different energy, and then when I went through that, I was always transmuting it and changing it and moving stuff, and then I went, wait a second, and the keepers came in and they said, we need you to do this, and I was like, okay. And then they started channeling down the manual, 120-page manual that I have for like the certification program in light language, and I was like, no, 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 this isn't how we're doing this, okay? I need this in English, okay?
Yeah.
Because I am not going to try and translate from that to this, and it was the funniest process. It took a while because, my human showed up, but then I learned dictation on Word, and then I was like, this is the bomb, and stuff like that. But it's a potent manual. And one of my clients is trained in the Akashics, and she sent me a message today. She goes, I think I have an entity in my field. And I said, when you were trained in the Akashics, did you not get taught about clearing energies? And she's like, yeah, here's what they taught us. If you have an entity, just call in your guides. I was like, no, no, that's not the protocols. So I'm like, book a session, get in my calendar. We'll get this. And she ended up getting in tomorrow. So it's perfect because this was today. And I was like, it depends on the information you're using and the discernment of the information that you're using. We're moving through different levels of calibration now. And it's like, it can be really easy for us if we choose it to be. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like the deeper I've gotten, um, well, definitely the podcast has triggered a lot of knowledge for me and taken me down a lot of rabbit holes, and accelerated my understanding immensely. And I'm at a point right now with these unique Saturn and Mercury transits, where the universe is like, it's time to start integrating. It's
Mm,
time to start like doing some of it, and quieting everything else. Like, you've heard everything you need to hear, but
yeah.
I know I needed to talk to you today. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, I know I need to talk to her today. And there's other projects that I might need to put my attention in, but this work of going deep,
Mm,
and creating your reality, and visiting, like the Akashic Records, and other, realms where you can help shift energy, and heal the here and now, or just change, the universe is accelerating, but the more of us that are doing this work, like yourself, the more of us that are doing this work will help like shift us to even a higher, vibration. And
yeah.
some of these stories are already starting to fall away. If the more we take our focus off the negativity, and the more we focus on ourselves and our healing, the quicker the planet's shifting. And COVID, like, it was a blessing in disguise,
Oh, huge.
absolutely,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it caused such a big shift. Like, and I got to start working from home, and like, it made everything perfect. So,
Well, you got to pause. Like, how often were we
yeah,
like, Colleen before that was like in my car, running to meetings, always in like, and I was like, how did I even live like that? Like, and it like, it forced us to pause. And that was the whole, like, going against the narrative where they're like, let's get them in their homes and get them
Yeah.
alone, keep it separated. But it was like they forgot, they didn't know that they would activate all these people. And it was like
Well,
completely counterintuitive.
and you cannot force a world into their home. Like, if anything, what they did was they forced people to be creative in how they live their life, and they went out into nature. Like,
Yeah.
that to me was the biggest gift. I loved seeing everybody get into kayaking and paddleboarding and, like, going camping and living off the grid. I'm like, oh my God, this is like perfect. Look at it. Like, you guys are actually driven to connect with the earth and consciousness and all that is, and you don't even realize it, but now people are starting to realize it. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you know when
Yeah.
I'm in my home too much, I start craving nature. Like, I live in Arizona. It's super hot here, and
Mm.
I'm just waiting. I booked a camping trip right on the water for the end of September, and I'm like, by the end of
Mm.
September, it'll be perfect. We can, like, just chill out on our paddle boards or our kayaks and just, like, be in nature and chill. And, like, I'm just craving it to the point where I can feel fall in the air. Like,
Yeah.
it's like I'm ready to, because, like, unconscious magical things happen when you tune out rat race, when you tune
Yeah.
out, like, the chaos, you tune out the
Mhm.
noise.
I moved to Costa Rica 2 years ago.
Is that where
So
you're right now?
yeah. So I literally, you wouldn't
Ooh.
be able to tell by my closet, but this room is covered in windows, and then the, like, lights and everything just on camera. Like, you can even see, like, the ring light in my glasses, but it's like, because I need the lights in this place, but I literally live in the jungle, and the river is just right over there, which also means that my yard attracts some amazing reptiles and amphibians. It's super exciting. But I have been here for 2 years, and it is one of the most expanded experiences that I didn't know I needed when I moved. I seriously came in as an intuitive hit. I never even been to this country when I moved here. I literally woke up one day, they're like, you're going to California, or you're going to, that was in 2017. Wait, let's rephrase. You're going to Costa Rica. And I was like, okay, when am I leaving? And they're like, in the fall. And I was like, should I start selling stuff now? They're like, yeah. And I didn't know. I had no idea. And then about 6 months in, one of my clients who could tap right into my meditations and everything, she's like, I can't ground anymore in your meditations. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, your energy's too potent. And then I was
You're
like,
too
oh,
high.
so then you go, do I turn it down? And you're like, no, you have to step in. And then literally 3, 4 months later, she fell off the grid because she couldn't hold it. She was refusing to do the work necessary to hold the frequency and
Yeah,
couldn't
you got
hold
to
it.
do the work.
Right.
Yeah,
And I
you
just
got
am
to do the
like,
work.
I'm not, I was called here. Like, I was told I needed to go. And it has been the most expanded experience, but also the most, like, ass kicking experience of my life. Like, when you talk about healing and doing shadow work, this country rips you right
I'm
open. Yeah.
I'm right there with you. So the universe has been telling me, like, I told you offline about my ayahuasca plant medicine journey,
Yeah.
and in my last sessions, they spoke of shamanism, which I wasn't ready for those shoes to fill, but they also gave me a vision of the future, which
Mhm.
I didn't quite know it was the future. I felt like it was more like the immediate future, like coming up, and but it's appearing to start. It's a future thing, but they showed me on my laptop, like, at the beach with the wooden awning above me, and I had a really good friend with me and her son and my daughter out, in the water, and I remember thinking, this is coming.
Mhm.
And so when the ceremony was over, everything that happened in all of my journeys came true. That's the only one that hasn't played out yet.
Mm.
And in the last, like, 6 months, since we started the podcast, it's taken me down the rabbit holes, like I mentioned, but also, like, putting me back on my path to writing, which has always been a passion of mine.
Yeah.
And I just need to, like, get over this ADHD and, like, focus, and, like, I have, like, so many books started, and, like, I need to finish something. But I was like, the universe is, like, telling me maybe that's what I'm going to be doing at some point. Maybe I will just be
Mm.
able to be like you, doing my work, remotely in another country, I'm not sure where. And writing, like, how fucking awesome would that be?
Yeah, I have a book that I've written in my head already. So I
Yeah.
like, I got all
Yeah.
the chapters up here. I just need to get it out of paper. Like, but I've written a book before. I wrote one in 20. Well, I didn't write the book actually. I channeled the book, even though at the time I didn't know I was channeling the book. But
Yeah.
I would go up to the cottage and like for 3 hours in one day, for 3 days in a row, I would just write a chapter and then I'd be done for the day and I'd do it again. And I understand the process and I know it's not going to take me long. To write this book, but it's actually called like the Twin Flame Journey. So it's actually about
Ooh.
my ex partner and mine's relationship and the whole transition between that whole thing and 14 years of us floating in and out of each other's world. And this has been the longest time we haven't talked, which is 9 months.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm supposed to write a book about it because he went through this traumatic experience this year and I wasn't even a part of it. And the cord got cut when he went into surgery, which I've never been able to cut the cords. I've tried so many times, but we have a twin flame contract. But when the surgeon went in to do a surgery on his heart, the energetic cord got cut. And that's how I couldn't feel him, that this had happened to him. And
Makes
it's,
me wonder if maybe he died on the
I actually feel he did. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah, and he was
yeah,
able to do that
yeah, yeah.
because he
And so
probably
now,
seen the work that you've been doing and probably seen your intentions and probably understood, when you step outside of reality, like if you were to have a near death or an out of body, he probably, saw the bigger picture and realized, okay, well, I'm going to, that's what we need to do. She's been doing it. I haven't let it go. That's what I need to do. And that's
yeah.
pretty, that's pretty amazing to have seen it play out. But you were good in the sense that you had that patience, like waiting for it to kind of do what it needed to do, and now it might be time to put that book out.
It's so time. Like, and I just like, yeah, it just like the intensity of our relationship was, and he's in another loving relationship and has been for like 6 years. And we just couldn't still separate from the space. Like it just was so in, and I moved to another country, like
Yeah,
I'm not even around, like, but I was always around. He was always around. We were always around. And then this happened at the beginning of January. I talked to him near the end of December. We kind of had it out because that's just our way we do life. And
yeah,
then I heard from someone else in February that this had happened, like a completely random person,
right,
and couldn't get a hold of him. And then he blocked me on everything. And I went, does he even remember me? Like, I don't even know if he remembers. Like, I think that his
right.
girlfriend found out and then went into his phone and saw like our communications. And yeah, it's interesting, the whole thing. And I'm just like, I wrote him a goodbye letter and I just said, this is what I feel. It's like the end. And I just want you to know that this is where I hold you in the space of things. And the
It's
journey is,
amazing
yeah,
listening to you tell your story like that because first of all, I can relate in the sense that we get pulled into soul contracts with others that aren't
yeah.
always easy to let go of. And really, sometimes it's about, and kind of like in your situation, it's more about, well, learning about love from the way you trigger one another and what you
Mm,
bring out in one another and what love is and what love isn't. Um, but the goal really is to grow and expand from it. And sometimes that happens at different rates. And
oh,
clearly, you were at a rate that was a little ahead of his, and his had to be a little more traumatic. And you were able to both realize at some point, maybe not always consciously, that the karmic part was over and that you both learned what you needed to learn to go the direction you needed to go. And sometimes, the universe will bring you back together at the right time if it's still meant to be when the souls are healed, and sometimes not.
mhm.
It just really depends. But I think people sometimes get wrapped up in their partnerships. They get wrapped up in the toxicity and the negativity, and they want to point blame, or they want to like go look at like, well, what happened when they were growing up. And really what it's about is just using that partner as a reflection, which makes sense with the twin flame, right?
Oh,
That
huge.
and make it a reflection and learn from it, and it not point fingers and not point blame, and then heal yourself and work on yourself and allow them to do that in their own time too, so
Mhm.
that you keep the vibration higher. Because even you can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. You know what I
No.
mean? And
Yeah.
so just let them be who they need to be. And I've been doing that even with my daughter lately. She's 12 and going through a lot of teen drama. Oh my God. So much. And I give her the best advice I can. And I know she hears it on some level because she like repeats it to people. I hear her doing it. But then she does the exact opposite of some of the things I say. And being a mom, I want to intervene, but I just like, oh, well, she's got to go through it. Then she's got to
Yeah.
like figure it out on her own. And
Yeah.
maybe when she gets older, she'll look back and realize it didn't work that way, but we can only do so much.
I could look back and go, man, some of the stuff you went through, but I'm like, really? Like, and my mom potentially would have probably tried to stop me, but I was like, who are you? Like, and
Yeah,
we're in our own spaces doing our own things. And
we
it's,
are.
it's
Everybody
really,
in their own time.
oh yeah, it's really interesting. And it's like, it hasn't been an easy journey. Let's just make sure I say that out loud. Because I just want to make sure people know that I'm not like, oh, and then I just let it go. Like, like I
Yeah,
did my own grieving and understanding, and my ego kicked in. Like I could have jumped on a plane to go back there. I could have called his mom, who I'm really tight with, like at least in the past I was. And it's like I everything wanted to move something forward, and then I went, hold on. And then I tapped into spirit, and spirit was like, you need to chill. And I was like,
yeah.
okay, here we are, like, and I did. So yeah, it's crazy.
So, doing this journeying that you do, to help others on their path and to help yourself in your path, what would you say is like what would you say is, I don't want to say the process, but when you go through it, like let's say somebody decides to start working with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um do they start working with you so they discover like maybe what direction they're supposed to go in life, or do they work with you to journey to heal things, or like what would be some reasons they would work with you to journey into themselves, the Akashic Records, their soul, and what would be some of the reasons that they would come to you, and what would they maybe get from it?
Yeah, so there's multiple portal openings, we'll call it. So people come in different ways into the field, and then we do the unique work necessary to move them through kind of the space of. But I'll give you some examples of people I'm working with now and how they landed in my field. So I actually have a container that I call the Soul Business Experience, where I bring in lightpreneurs into a space for a 6-month portal way to help them heighten their mission in business, to be able to light them up and move it through. And sometimes they have blocks in place, and we've got to work through some of that. We've got to activate maybe their spiritual gifts to be able to really align in the space. So that could be one way someone drops into my field. They're like, I'm in business. I know I need to change some stuff. And maybe it's my offerings or how I show up in the world, or we need to accelerate your power or open up your field of influence. Whatever it is, there's one aspect. Then I have a couple of key portal ways where people are dropping in right now. One of them is in shadow work. And it's about really aligning and going depthfully into the spaces where we need to move energy and heal, that the human's been cycling for so long in certain energetics, and it's time to release that. So that would be one where they recognize they have been struggling for a certain amount of time. They're in doubt all the time. They're worrying about stuff. They're in anxiety, like all these things that are blocking them from fully like living in their space. Then we work in the inner child realm, where people know that they've got to go back and do some work inside the inner child stuff because they've been cycling in I'm not enough, or this verbiage that's happening. So then that would be another key. And then the last one, let's just say for this experience that we're talking within, is activation work. So they're like, I want to deepen my connection to self. I want to activate my spiritual gifts. I want to activate my quantum healing, my light language. And there's a portal that I've worked within to be able to dive into that, to remove what's necessary to move it out, to work within certain integration energies. And then we're in that space of like really aligning that energy through into the field. So those would be the main. Then I have like programs if people want to jump in for certain things, or, they're like, hey, I want to be part of your collective, which is like my membership, and I teach weekly in there. So it's like there's multiple touch points depending on where people are at in their process. which is the coolest thing because I wouldn't want to have it any other way. You know,
Yeah,
like,
no, it's super exciting listening to the work that you're doing, for sure. And I absolutely will want to talk with you more offline because a lot of what you do is, I've already been told that that I'm not supposed to be doing it alone. And I've
mm,
always been that one who teaches herself, you know, like I learn best by teaching myself.
yeah,
But not all knowledge can be gained. Just,
yeah.
you need others, and so, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to be working with you on some level. And if not, training services on some level, because I would love to, you know, dig deeper with you as well on that, with your chart and certain other things. But I really, want to guide people your direction because I feel like the work we need to do, um, as individual souls is really big right now. Like, it's
Mhm.
becoming trendy in some ways, and I
Yep.
think it's a good
Yep.
thing if it's trendy to heal, to do shadow work,
Mhm.
to, find out what your triggers are, to find out if you're an avoidant or, a
Yeah.
secure attachment or whatever. It's becoming trending, but that's a good trend. Like, you can't put that kind of thing down. It's like, yeah, do the shadow work. It's hard.
Yeah.
It'll take you down a path, but the thing is, and tell me if you agree. I think that the people that are jumping into that realm of healing and growing and learning at this time
Mhm.
is accelerated, whereas
Oh, for
us who
sure.
started, in the past,
Yeah.
was much slower and longer and deeper and drawn out. And I'm feeling like the ones that are jumping in now, it's like accelerated and it's almost hard to handle, but like accelerated in the sense that like we're going good places.
Oh, I agree with you on all fronts. Like I said, 15 years ago, I took on my first spiritual mentor and I worked with her for 5 years. Like I couldn't even imagine working with someone for 5 years right now,
Right.
like because like
Right.
I kept going back and I wanted more and I wanted more because I didn't trust myself. My main objective is like, how do I get you lit? And yeah, if you want to still
Yeah.
hang out, come into the membership and be a part of that world. But if we're in a one-to-one container, my job is in a very short period of time is to get this into alignment and to clear what we need to clear and to get you in that space that you can go in the world. Like that's my job. Like that's
Yeah.
what I'm here to do. And so when people come and play in my field, sure, sometimes it's a bit intense and sometimes I trigger you but I'm supposed
Yeah.
to because that's
Yeah.
supposed to come through for you to make the moves to move it through. And one of the things you had said that sprung this on that I feel like I really need to speak to is that we are remembering. So part of my job is to activate your remembrance. So it's not me being like, oh, that'd be cool if you spoke light language. It's you going, I think I'm almost ready to speak light language. Can you help me?
Yeah.
And I create the safety around it that you can step in and actually trust yourself. And it was one of the coolest things I did a couple weeks ago. I started to cry when she started to speak because I was taken back to where she actually first initiated that language. And I was playing in like this waterfall, eating pineapples with the monkeys and the koalas while she was speaking to me. And it was the coolest thing ever. And I went, that's why we do this work. That's why I'm like,
Yeah.
because I get to go have the experiences with you. Because when we're in it, I see too. So it's so fun.
So the route I've taken so far, so my goal has always been helping people with self-awareness, and getting to know themselves because people are so blind to their inner self. They're just living that outer life, like whatever
Mm-hmm.
kind of falls in their lap and then wondering why things are going wrong. And so my passion has always been astrology, trying to figure myself out. And like, well, I figured myself out because I really allowed myself to look at the things I didn't like. And for a
Right.
minute, when I was younger, I embraced those things and just thought that's just who I am. But as
Mm-hmm.
I grew and learned, it isn't just who I am. Those were those obstacles that I had to overcome to
Yeah.
become who I really actually am. And so when I sit and do readings with people, it's not just astrology. I use astrology sort of as like a tangible tool, like
Yeah.
something to show them, even though they don't even know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
And I, and then by using that, it really opens them up to the conversation. And once they're opened up to the conversation, then the energy flows, and then I can really read. And sometimes while I'm doing the reading, I'm like working with their guides and talking about, like what needs to move and shift. And sometimes they're just doing the work because I've opened them up to the conversation.
Of
And
course.
because I've opened them up, they're able to start. And I tell them sometimes, it's like, I can only tell you so much, but you have to do the work. And this
Yeah.
is what it's going to look like. And, you will come out on top, but you've started your path and you're right on target. But it could go back just as quickly if choose to, go back to sleep, and I let them know too. You said sometimes you trigger your clients. Well, I've seen that happen. Like
Oh,
I've had it where I've done readings or healings, and then no connection for a while because like I really hit some spots.
yeah. Yeah. And that's the
It's really
purity
interesting.
of the light, really, like, and when we see it that way, it's just showing us where the work is. And now, just like you said, it's our job to do it.
Yeah, no, it's all about just getting them started. Like if they,
Mhm.
however they need to go after, like putting that little fire, like you said, lighting the fire.
Yeah. Yeah. So fun.
What is your highlight? What's your highlight of your job so far? Like, you do really awesome deep work. But what's your favorite part?
Well, like I get jazzed up out of all the work when somebody shifts something and I get the message the next day that they feel completely different. Like that's the fuel, right? And that moves it through. But like some cool work I do is just like getting to meet all their parts of their soul. And like, I mean, like when I opened up Mary Magdalene's Akashic Records, and I was like, holy shit, this is Mary Magdalene. And I was just like, I literally got on, and this woman never met me before, right? So she never met me. She got referred to me from someone, and we got on the Zoom, and I was just like, I just need to say that I am like fangirling out. And she's like, what? And like no conscious awareness at all to that. And then that was about a year ago. And then just recently, she came back in my field to activate those gifts that she was ready. And she had been doing some of that work before. I said to her before I even kind of like said all the stuff, I said, how do you do your quantum healing work? And she's like, well, basically, I try to prolong it, but it's really easy for me. I can see the like distortion in their body and I just pull it out. I was like, so when Mary Magdalene was incarnated, she used to do this like demonic release and like literally through people's eyes and just go and pull it out. And then she'd have them pass out so they wouldn't remember that she had just done an exorcism on them. And I went, you're using the same technique, but on the body, like, and
Wow.
it's just really fun because, and then, yeah, just like, that's the cool, like, as you could see, I'm like, oh my God, I leaned in. I'm like, let me
Oh
tell you about
yeah.
this. Like, it's like,
No, that's amazing.
it's the coolest work. And it's just like, how can you even put that on your marketing? Like, how do you tell people, like, well, you might be an ascended master, when we drop into your records, let's go find out. It's like, I don't even know how
No,
to market half of this, like, how do
I
you
do, I do.
even?
That's been my biggest challenge, like how you came up with your, the job that you do, the name of the job that you do. That's some of the challenges I've had. Is like it's so multi-leveled, like the
Oh, for
work I do.
sure.
Yeah, I advertise it as astrology, but like it's so much more than that, and like
Hmm.
it could be even more than that if you're open to it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I feel like I need to um up my game. I'm ready to up my game. I think there's other work because when
Mm,
I do readings and when I have good conversation, those are my two favorite things because my energy level goes sky high and sometimes it takes me so long to come back down.
mm,
And it feels good because I know that like I got them to match my energy,
right.
and or vice versa, I matched theirs, but to the point where I know that like something positive was going to be created out of it,
Yeah.
and even if it was planting seeds, I did what I needed to do, and it gets me high. It's like a drug.
Yeah. Totally get it. Totally get it. Yeah. It's a cool thing. Like all of it, and the more we align, it gets cooler and cooler. So,
So do you have any goals? Like I know that you do work on other people, but like what does your personal work look like, and do you have goals that you're reaching for?
Yeah, like I am an anti-goal person, so I'm just going to put that out there. I'm more of an
Flow.
intentional person. Yeah, but I do have structure because I believe in both leading in divine feminine and masculine. So I have both in my field. There's times in my life where I just flowed. That was a good year. I'm like, I don't even really remember what I did that year because I probably didn't do anything, but it was amazing. In the space of it all. But I have been working within my own energetic field over the last 5 days of really connecting into 12 dimensional light energy and pillars of light. And I've been channeled in with some Psalms that are vibrational codings that come out in tonality, and really working on moving that energy into the field. It's creating some pretty cool energies in my body that I've, had to keep coming back to teach. But before every call now, I'm doing this like 12D shielding exercise for like 15 minutes before every call I jump on. And it's been the coolest journey to play in that energy. So that's kind of where I'm playing within. But the business impact has always been like massive amounts of impact, which then yields into 7-figure years. And it's not from an egotistical side to be like, look, I'm a millionaire. It's more so like, fuck, we lit a lot of lights, so
Right.
and it's in me. It's not an out there thing. It's not like, oh, I saw these people. It's like, it's there. And my job is to match the vibrational alignment to do it in the way I'm being called. And that's been the hardest journey for me because most of the time I'm like, am I worthy to hold this? What if it actually happens? And all the things that we've programmed, and I'm out of all of it. So like, I'm
That's
like
good.
literally just let's roll. And it's really
So
cool.
I have one part of that down. Like I want to
Yeah.
get into that space that you're talking about because the part I have down is uncanny divine timing. Like because I
Mm-hmm.
flow. I literally listen to spirit constantly.
Yeah.
I listen to my gut constantly and I flow and messages. I have no trouble getting messages. Like
Yeah.
even talking to you a minute ago when you were talking, I saw this rhinoceros shat behind you. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I wonder what the rhinoceros is about because I'm very much in tune with like spirit animals. And I was like,
Yeah.
I see a rhinoceros. It's a positive thing. And I was like, hmm.
Yeah.
But I
I'll look it
need
up when we're
to
off.
yeah, I'll
I'll
need
look it up.
to
Yeah.
I need to tap into the well because I know it's all about co-creation, right?
Yeah.
And the intent is there and the universe keeps telling me it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. It's like right there, it's coming. And I'm just like, but I feel a lull and I'm like,
Mm.
well, and but yet at the same time I'm mentally stimulated with all of this like unique energy and knowledge coming through, but what am I supposed to do with it? So listening to you makes me like I have so many things I want to go write down and like start trying to do and working towards and the universe is like you're going to have to shut some things down and start some other things up, and that's what it seems to do. People look at like you said structure.
Hmm.
I think structure is important, but structure can at times be limiting.
Oh, for sure.
And
Yeah.
as I flow and I'm in this divine timing, um, things that I put money and passion into, and then the universe is like, okay, beep, stop.
Yeah.
Now you got to go this way. And I'm like, but what about this or what about that? And all the messages I got today, like, and not even just over the last few weeks, all the messages are like, things are coming to an end. That's why they are the way they are, and you need to just let go. And I'm okay with that. It just I don't feel or see that path. Like I don't like sometimes I can see where it's gonna go, but right
Mm.
now I don't see where it's fully supposed to go. So I think that maybe I was supposed to talk to you.
Yeah. Well, one of my clients
Yeah.
said the same thing to me. Like she was almost like venting in because most of my clients have support through like Voxer or like WhatsApp or whatever mechanism they want to use in the space. As long as I can 1.5 or 2 times the voice notes, I'm okay. Because sometimes my clients are thinking while they're saying voice notes and I'm like, let's keep it moving. But she said to me, like where did the woman go that would know exactly where she wanted to be in 2 years and would strive towards that? And I go, no, you've dismantled the paradigm in the space of that we're literally in moments by moments. And it doesn't mean
Yep.
that we can't have the millions or be the influence or shift humanity. It just means that our job right now is to be right here and to flow with that intuition. And yeah, we've got pockets. We've got some stuff we have to do. We got messages that have to get out into the world. We've got programs we've got to launch because it's the impactful time to move them. Like there's in that is listening, but it's also not, well, on my chart, it says today I need to do this.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not how
Yeah.
we're
No,
operating. We've
no,
got to,
it's not.
it's like old school ways of doing it are no longer working. Here's the new school way. Trust your intuition and be, period.
And listen,
Yeah.
listen to it. Like, it's one
Yeah.
thing to trust your intuition because people know it's there, but like, it's not just there every once in a while to give you an aha. It's always there.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
always on.
Yeah.
It's like you have to like somehow tune out the logic side because too much logic really numbs it down.
Yeah.
And the more you just allow the fact that anything is possible at any given time and you can flow and just be that, then it is because I do things that don't make any sense to anybody sometimes, but like it gets me exactly to where I needed to be.
Yeah.
And my daughter's like, "Mom," like, and we make a joke. It's mom timing because like she's always with me and she always sees it, and I'm like, "I'm sorry." And then today, she was in the kitchen and I was right on time, and then she's like, "Well, you don't know everything." I'm like, "Yes, I do." And she's like, "Well, what do I want for what am I thinking right now? What do I want?" And I'm like, "You want a dessert?" And she's like, "Well, what do I want?" And I'm like, "Probably chocolate." And she's all, and she goes, "Well, what exactly do I want?" And I'm like, "Well, we have it in the freezer. I just bought it for you." And she freaked out. Like,
Yeah.
and it's because, first of all, she's predictable.
Of course.
But second of all, like, yeah, it just shows her that, like, you can't hide from energy. You
Yeah.
can't,
Oh, you can't. Yeah.
you can't hide from energy. You can lie all you want with your words, but like energy doesn't lie.
No, totally doesn't. Yeah. And it's, yeah, we're just kind of moving through that field of like, I've learned through the years that if I don't like the small things, like maybe you should take your keys or maybe you should do this, like, and it's proved me right and wrong at the same time that
Yeah.
I trust it all. They're like, you should probably, I'm like, I got it. Like I'm just like, so like it just flows now. I live and breathe by my intuition, just like you. Like that's how I move. I take action in business that way. I create that way. When I dive into like programs for the year, I go, what are we teaching? And they're like, this is the energies. These are the dates. And then as we get closer, it's like, wow, I'm teaching this like enhancing power thing over here on the full moon that I didn't know was a full moon at the time when I actually booked it. And then
Yeah. Yeah.
everything I'm teaching aligns with the messaging of what's happening there. And I'm like you can't make it up. Like I say, you can't make this shit up. You cannot. Like if you live and breathe in this, it always is aligning. It's always moving through, but it's our
I was
job. Yeah.
I was driving home earlier this week, probably like I think it was Monday, from the gym early in the morning, so my daughter was barely awake, and I had this like feeling, and like, "Ugh, today might be a pretty ugly day." Like I could just feel it. The way the gym's always awesome. I go to this class, and it's always awesome, and today was off, and I'm like, this is never off. And I'm driving home, and I'm like, my kid is super sensitive. Like she has a sensory processing disorder, and she picks up on everything, but she doesn't know how to process it, especially like the energies of the world. And I'm driving, and I'm like, I should keep her home today. I know she should not go to school today. I just know it's going to be bad if she goes to school today. And then something stopped me and was like, no, if she says, which she doesn't ever do,
Yeah.
that she doesn't want to go to school today for some odd reason, then you can go along with it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, just flow with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, by the time it was time for her to go to school, she's like, "Oh, I don't really think I should go today." And I'm like, I knew it. Like I just knew it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and we
Yeah.
talked through it, like what she was going through, and we kept her home, and it was exactly what she needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it didn't eliminate all the drama, but it definitely made it where she was in an atmosphere where she was supported, whereas one where she would create more anxiety for her. So it really is. It's just about like being in the here and now, like you said.
Yeah. That's all that it is. And if the more we learn that or remember that and live that, everything gets easier. We're always going to have our challenges. We're in a duality simulation. Like we've chosen that journey, to be here on earth, but it just makes it like, oh, there it is again. Okay, I got the tool for this one. Let's see how fast I can get out of this one compared to what I did last time. And then it's like we're challenging in the levels of the game, and it's like, yeah.
So, before we wrap it up, which I don't want to, I could talk to you all day. But before we wrap it up, like if you were to give, the audience any advice at all right now,
Mm-hmm.
about the way life is and about the journey we're going through, or just anything that kind of you feel you need to say, what would you want to say, or what would you tell
Yeah.
people?
We're about to embark on probably one of the darkest phases of the journey that we've ever been on before. And it's going to get a little bit rough out there. And I just want to remind everybody that we are sovereign beings that consciously create our own reality. So you can buy into the narratives that are going to happen out there and the squeeze that's going to come through, or you can keep taking steps to keep shifting yourself to align in the life you really desire to live in. And that's the
Yeah,
choice. You can buy in, or you can step out and go, I'm over here. And
it goes
yeah,
today. Energy goes,
yeah,
energy, or where attention goes, energy flows.
yeah. And it's going to be part of the path. This was stationed where it is. And some people are like, oh, we're over it. No, we're not. We're not. And we haven't got to the thick of it yet. It's coming. And to just
Oh, yeah.
remember that, yeah, you are the creator of your reality. So even across the street, if something is happening, you can change the vibration of your home. You just need to decide and do it. Period.
And it really does boil down to that is everybody can feel what you're saying. Everybody can
Mm.
feel it. There's like that unspoken, it's about to come kind of feeling, right?
Mhm.
Um, universal, globally. But really, if we keep our focus on things that are most important to us, and that doesn't mean like our material things, but like the people we love, and like, our daily life and our goals, and, things like that. If we could keep our focus on growing and learning and expanding and caring and giving and creating, as opposed to everything that's playing out on outside of us,
Yeah.
just work on what you have control over, and not like you can't control those other things that are happening outside of you, like, and attention, energy flows where attention goes, and really focus on where you're putting your focus.
Yeah. And your sovereignty. It's like, how do you create more stability in your sovereignty? Whatever that means for you, because it could be different for you than it is for me. I have key connections to farmers here, and I nourish that relationship every week on purpose. If something were to happen, I know I'd be taken care of. But I also have a land around me that I can eat off of. And there's fruit trees everywhere. And yeah, maybe I'm not eating a balanced diet, but I could survive on this land. And so in my mind, that's taken care of. So now I'm like, where else am I looking for sovereignty? In my relationships, and how I'm supported in the world, and, all the things like and that's the mechanism. And I'm not trying to bring in destitute. I'm just looking at it from a holistic perspective, going, where do I not have it, and where do I need it to be if I ever need to make a call, you know?
And if we get into our flow state, the
Yeah.
universe will put us exactly where we need to be at the exact right
Mm-hmm.
times,
Mm-hmm.
so focus on what you can do, in general, to stay positive, and, whatnot. And you're right, like, the universe brought you to where you are for a reason.
Oh, huge.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Like this
that's so
exact
awesome.
house for a reason. Like this is my fourth home here. And that's a whole other story, but and this is where I'm meant to be, right here in this moment here. So yeah,
That's wonderful.
yeah, it's cool.
Well, thank you so much, for sitting with me today and really enlightening me, and definitely got a lot of like triggers and thoughts, and, things that I, want to touch at. How can people find you? Like, what if they want to work with you?
Yeah.
What if they want to tap into their Akashic records, or, maybe do a healing path with you? What does that look like?
Yeah, my playground is Instagram, so that's why I always say come play on Instagram with me. And people say, like, you don't have a website? I'm like, no, things change too fast. I'm like, I don't want to update that stuff. I have landing pages, I do all that kinds of stuff, but like Instagram, so come and play. come and play on Instagram. First and last name, it's the Colleen Lindberg, and I'm sure it'll be in the show notes anyways. You'll be able to grab links, but yeah, come even just send me a DM. Just be like, I heard your episode with Lori, and just tell me that you listened. Like, I just love to even communicate with people that are doing the work and hanging out in this field and are attracted to these conversations, So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have to let me know what the rhinoceros is all about.
Yes, I will. I'm going to look it up. I was like, I almost forgot. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for coming on today. I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thanks, Lori. Appreciate you.
No problem.